Good morning. Welcome to the WLBB Community Voice program. I'm Colin Worthington, your host on this Friday. My guest this morning, Mayor of the City of Villa Rica, Jeff Reese, will be discussing beard grooming tips this morning and several other things going on in the City of Villa Rica. Jeff just took over as mayor, I'm going to say probably November or December of last year, which is kind of unorthodox for you to pop in there that early. But it was a position that needed to be filled for several reasons, and it's the first time on the show since he was elected.
I think so.
I think so, too. Good morning. We're hearing him all right, Steve Graddick? Okay, we're going to try and bring you just a little bit closer there to the mic, Jeff, if you don't mind. Hey, first of all, we had you and I initially planned to have you on the show last week, and you had a couple of things come up. Also, the pass of a dear friend, right. and I saw some comments you made about her on the Facebook, and it reminded me. I believe you introduced her when you ran for mayor. You had a nice little press conference out in Villa Rica, and you had brought her up with you and mentioned her, so she obviously meant a lot to you.
She did. Hazel Roberts was a dear, dear soul. She's the consummate volunteer, community-minded person. And when I was looking for a place to live out here in Villa Rica in 1998, Miss Hazel listened to my sobbing story and said, "I'm going to find you a house, young man." And so a couple of days later, she called me back and she said, "I think I found your house." And it would have been a good story for me if it ended right there, but she helped me with the financing, she helped me move, she helped me meet everybody in town, and ultimately she helped me get the job as the Director of Parks and Recreation after the passing of Tiny Cole in 2001. So.
And she just passed away last week.
She did. She passed away a week ago yesterday. And Miss Hazel was like you said, she was at my announcement to run for mayor because she was such a critical part of my life as far as my journey in Villa Rica. And it was amazing to me. I did the eulogy at her funeral, and it was amazing to hear people get up and talk about how many lives she actually touched. And it occurred to me that she was the example or the epitome of what a volunteer should be, and that is someone that gives without any recognition. I never knew she helped other people find houses. I never knew that she helped pay for people to get their taxes done when the economy went in the tank. But she did that for everybody, and I think that's what community is about.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you had the opportunity to say something real nice about her at this time.
Special lady.
Yeah. Again, our guest this morning, Villa Rica Mayor Jeff Reese. Been in office for 4 months at this point. I guess what were some of the things you ran on? One of the things you ran on, I remember, was quality of life, talking a lot about the parks and being able to keep just good quality of life up for the city of Villa Rica. What have you, I guess, noticed since you've been in office, and what do you think? How do you think you've been able to follow up on that suggestion?
Well, we're still moving forward. Quality of life will always be my life's passion. I spent 36 years in the recreation field, so I love kids and I love everybody, really. And I tell people this. I was talking to a civic organization last week, and they said, "What's the number one quality that you have to be a public official?" And I said, "You have to love people." And you really do. You can't just go into this and expect that it's a 9-to-5 job. Best I can tell, the mayor's job is a 24/7 job. And, it's not uncommon for me to get calls at 10 o'clock at night about barking dogs and, about zoning issues on Saturdays and Sundays. And I take the calls. My number's out on my Facebook page, and I encourage people to call me. I can't answer those questions directly maybe at that particular time, but I can find somebody that can answer them. So that's continued with quality of life. But I think we're moving in the right direction in Villa Rica. We've had a few setbacks, but we're excited about the direction we're headed.
And we'll certainly talk about some of those setbacks.
Yes.
Here in just a little bit. You guys recently were given a big old plot of land. It's more, I think it's on the Douglas County side.
It is.
The parks. Where does that stand? I think you had some informational sessions and discussions with the public maybe last month or so. What was a lot of the feedback you got about ideas and what to do with that park?
Well, we had several charrettes. That's a new word in my vocabulary. I just called them planning meetings. But we had several planning meetings with the public, invited them to come and be a part of the discussion. Like you said, it's on Connors Road. It's on the Douglas County side of Villa Rica.
Doesn't mean you can't go over there if you're from the Carroll County side.
We encourage people from all over the state of Georgia, but it's going to be a passive recreation park, which is exciting for me in the recreation field because it won't have ball fields or active recreation activities, and it'll have walking trails, a dog park, playground, and also places for bicycle motocross riders to ride. And I say that there's no motors on the property, but it is literally a gem in the middle of the city of gold. because it's on a site that's very mountainous, reminiscent of what you would see in North Georgia. There's a stream, a swamp on it, a lot of second growth trees on it, and it's just exciting to be a part of that.
Jeff Reese, Mayor of the City of Villa Rica, our guest on this morning's Community Voice program. Any questions or comments, feel free to give us a call. 678-601-8255. That is 678-601-TALK. When you came into office, David Milliron had been city manager for about a year and a half. Departed about a month and a half ago back, probably a surprise to you. And, but looking back on Villa Rica's history with city managers, city managers are averaging less than 2 years. Obviously, it had nothing to do with you. But looking at the last decade, was it 7 or 8?
I believe it was 7. Yeah, 7 city managers.
Why is that, Jeff? I mean, is that typical for every other place? I mean, we look at Carrollton. I mean, Carrollton had Casey Coleman there for like 78 years, and
I think Carrollton probably helped balance that. As I understand it from Georgia Municipal Association, the average tenure of a city manager in Georgia is 3.5 years. And I don't really know. I've never been on the elected official side of it, but I know that city managers work closely with elected officials, and sometimes that relationship doesn't build, or it doesn't grow exactly like it should, and I think in an elected official position or in a city manager position or anybody that works that closely, that just happens. It's part of the job.
Where are we in the process? I believe last time, when 2 years ago when the job was open, I believe it started out with like 80 resumes. But then I remember talking to several of you guys, you kind of joking like, okay, well, some of these guys are, dishwashers or something like that, and they, just reaching out. Maybe they were just trying to be funny, or maybe they were seriously interested in it. But then you kind of weeded that down to about 10 really good resumes at that point. Broke that down. Where is it right now as far as how many resumes have come in?
Well, as I understand it, as of yesterday, there were 95 people that had applied for the job, and a lot of those folks, admittedly, aren't qualified. But we encouraged everybody to put in for it. And so we're in the process of vetting those applications. Staff is, and our interim city manager. And so once we get that to a manageable level, then those will be given to the mayor and council, and we'll pour through those and decide. We'll narrow it down to 3, and then those 3 will be publicly. We'll announce who the 3 finalists are for the job, and then the council will choose the new city manager.
When you guys interview them, obviously you look at their resume and look at their history of their work and things. What kind of questions are you going to ask about pertaining to maybe the direction of Villa Rica, where it's gone, where it's been the last 2-3 years, and in the future? What kind of questions, what kind of information do you hope to get out of
Well, I can tell you the questions I'm going to ask. One of the things that I want to know: do they have any experience managing projects? Because we are at a crossroads in Villa Rica as far as just moving projects along. One of the things that I ran on was quality of life, but also infrastructure improvements. And if we're going to move forward, we need to, address our infrastructure issues in Villa Rica, not only what we have in the ground, but what we're going to do in the future. Because, one of the things that bothers me, and I stay up late at night and think about, is, what are we going to do as far as our water issues 10, 15 years down the road? If our growth grows like everybody else says it will grow, then we're going to have the water supply, to provide for those, services, commercial, industrial, and residential.
And what are some of the options for that? What do you see, when you're thinking about how you fix that? And what are some of the ideas? Obviously, they'll cost money, but what's your hope there? I mean, do you have a place where it would be a new water facility or a new reservoir? Well,
we have commissioned a water rate study, which is part of that process, is to find out where we are on our water rates and how we're going to kind of meet those needs in the future. But just talking with water experts, Matt Wyndham's a friend of mine with Carroll County Water Authority, and some of the things we're looking at is possibly dredging one or both of our lakes in Villa Rica, which will give us more holding capacity. And also we've talked about even looking to see if there's a place that we can build a reservoir in Villa Rica to have a third source of water. And then the other option is to partner with Carroll County in the development of Indian Creek Reservoir, if that's even an option. But there are a lot of options out there on the table. We just have to decide which one fits us better.
And it's not like that; those kind of things happen in a year or two. I mean, there's so much paperwork and then so many documents you have to fill out and things like that. I mean, it takes a long time to possibly get approved for a reservoir, right, for the city.
It does, and we all know because of the Georgia-Florida water wars that that can end up in court, and we don't want to do that. When anybody builds a reservoir, everybody downstream is affected by that. And one of the pluses to working with Carroll County is they've already went through that process, and they've already went through some of the land purchases. So. We're looking at some other models in the state of Georgia. I'm a firm believer in, don't reinvent the wheel. If someone else has been successful in this endeavor, then let's borrow from their success. Let's do what they did. And so we're looking at Athens, Clarke County as one of those options for partnering with the Carroll County, in their case, Clarke County, Water Authority to have a shared use and shared pay, basically, construction cost of the reservoir. And so that's an option. We know that we have to have water. We've just got to figure out how we've got to get that water.
Do Villa Rica city officials, elected officials as well, they still expect Villa Rica to double in size? I think it was over the next 10 years.
That's what I've heard. I talked to School Superintendent Scott Cowart this week, and their models are a little bit different than what we're showing. So we got to make sure what that number is. To start with. I know we're going to grow. That's a given. And so I have seen those projections. Quite frankly, they scare me to death. And Scott Cowart said, we need to make sure those numbers are either right or wrong because it affects schools also. We have one high school in Villa Rica, and it's already the largest, as I understand it, the largest high school in Carroll County. So if we're talking about doubling population, then that's going to affect a lot of facets of government, not just city government.
Are we seeing a lot of interest in building new houses? How are the numbers maybe compared to the last 2 years?
A lot better.
Yeah.
We have a lot of interest in the Mirror Lake community and other parts of Villa Rica. There's some exciting things coming down the pipe as far as development in Villa Rica, and it's coming. We see it coming, and we would be remiss in just forgetting about that or turning our head or sticking our head in the sand. And I've been very vocal saying, we're not going to kick the can down the road anymore. We're gonna address this thing, and we're gonna look at the future, and we're gonna try to address it now, so that we're not caught 10 years down the road saying, "Wow, I wish we'd have started thinking about a reservoir or our infrastructure or our roadway systems." All those things need to be addressed now before the growth gets here.
Jeff Reese is mayor of the city of Villa Rica. He's our guest on this morning's WLBB Community Voice program. Questions or comments, 678-601-8255. That number is 678-601-TALK. And good morning to our friends watching us on Facebook Live this morning on the News Talk 1330 WLBB Facebook page. We'll take our first break and come back and talk more with Jeff Reese right after this.
Do you want to be healthier as a family? Do you want to learn fun ways to exercise and be active? Do you want to find easy ways to add more fruits and veggies to your diet? Parents are on the front line when it comes to the fight against childhood obesity, and you could use some backup. Help your children get a healthy start and call 770-214-CARE to join Tanner Health System's Kids and Fitness program. Kids and Fitness is a free, evidence-based healthy lifestyle program for children ages 8 to 16 and their parents. Developed by a team of doctors and health professionals, the program includes nutrition lessons, physical activity, goal setting, support sessions for parents, and healthy snacks. Register today by calling 770-214-CARE or register online at gethealthylivewell.org. That's gethealthylivewell.org. Tanner Health System's way of helping you and your family get your healthy on.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice program. Our show brought to you by Tanner Health System here on News Talk 1330 WLBB, also streaming live online at newstalk1330.com. My guest this morning is Jeff Reese. He is the mayor of Villa Rica, the city of gold. That's right. Villa Rica. Hey, I just saw something interesting a couple days ago. Are you watching that thing on FX, Feud, Betty and Joan? No, you're not watching that.
If it's not sports, I probably don't watch it. So
well, it's on Sunday night, and you can TiVo it. You can watch it 5 days later. But it's kind of a docudrama on the making of the movie Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Remember that? But I mean, it's way before your time, obviously. Actually, 1962 or something like that. But the one of the lead characters, a woman who dies in the movie, African American woman. She was born in Villa Rica. I can't remember her name. I think her first name was Maddie or something like that. I don't know. Maybe she can get a street.
Hey,
named
it's
after.
possible.
I'll tell
It's
Shirley
possible.
Marchman. She's all
That's
about
right.
that. She's all about naming the streets after people. So, anyway, Jeff Reese is our guest on this morning's Community Voice. Saw a story, I guess, in the last month, and had talked to the sheriff about this. You guys take good advantage of the inmate work labor, and I mean, and what are some of the examples they've done over the last couple of years for your city?
Well, we started our work program with Carroll County with Sheriff Langley in 2002, and so it's been a long time we started that program. And but the inmates under my direction and under Danny Fisher and the folks in the Recreation Department over a period of 10 plus years, we built, the V-Plex, rebuilt the V-Plex, was formerly Center Fields, and we built the amphitheater, the Pine Mountain Gold Museum at Saltmar Park. The list goes on and on. And so my relationship and the city's relationship with the sheriff here in Carroll County has been stellar. And so when we received the same letter, I guess, that all the other mayors in the county received, it shocked me. I mean, with everything else going on, to receive a letter basically saying that we were going to lose our inmate labor, which is 2 crews. At one time, it was 3 crews, plus Douglas County also provides us an inmate crew. Was shocking to say the least. But in the long term, it meant basically we lost our workforce. We have 2 inmate crews that come out to the city every day, Monday through Friday, and they bring 5 to 8 inmates per crew. So to lose 12 to 16 workers on a daily basis has meant that grass was not going to be cut, that paper wouldn't be picked up, and restrooms wouldn't be cleaned in the parks, and that's where the biggest impact. But there's also a crew that works for roads, so and in public works. So we were going to lose the majority of our workforce as far as maintenance is concerned. So, I took a chance and made an appointment with Sheriff Langley and met with him a couple of weeks ago, and we saved our inmate crews for this year. And we'll revisit that, through our budget and through, meetings with the sheriff at the end of the year and decide what we're going to do moving forward with that. But that was a scary proposition for about 2 weeks, and I did lose a lot of sleep on that one.
And it's going to be your budget year. It's just to the middle part of this summer.
Yeah.
Right, when you find out. And it's probably important to point out, I mean, I think Langley has actually hinted about this, that there could be problems based on just his, his staff. I mean, the fact that his staff is getting low, that, there's going to have to suffer somewhere. And I think the reason he's pulling the inmate labor is because he has to have somebody monitor those guys. And
exactly
when he
right.
has somebody monitor them, they can't be on the job doing other things.
Right.
Right. And that's the reason behind that.
He's charged with not only taking care of the inmates in that jail and protecting us, but also the streets, all the Carroll County streets and everything. So he has to balance that act constantly, and that's not an easy task, I'm sure. And so I understand fully why that decision was being made, and I'm just glad that we got a reprieve for the remainder of this year. And like I said, we will revisit that at the end of this year. So,
what's the liability? When we see, I mean, I hear about inmates building. I think they built the new thing in Carrollton, the depot. I mean, did a lot of work on that. What's the liability for them? I mean, when they're working on things, I mean, if something were to break or affect somebody. I mean, there's got to be. I'm sure there's a whole big document how all that affects, but I'd never looked into it myself.
Yeah, I haven't either. The Carroll County handles that on their end. We assign the inmates. Carroll County, basically vets the process. They send the inmates out. I thought that's where you were headed with that question. These are trustees, the ones that come out in the parks. But as far as liability is concerned, I'm sure there's some kind of waiver that they sign, but I'm not aware of that. So
as far as quality, well, Jeff Reese is the mayor of Villa Rica. He's our guest on this morning's Community Voice program. Right now, it's 8:47. I guess we kind of just touched on some projects there, or just the fact of projects going on. North Loop project, apparently City of Gold's been talking about that for, 40, 50, 60 years?
As long as I can remember.
Yeah. And right now it's probably to the point where it's needed more than ever. So it seems like maybe everybody's kind of getting their act together. What are the things that are holding up right now?
Well, there is no holdup. The property acquisition is going on as we speak. Everything's being surveyed. I see stakes every day, new stakes out on the side of the road, and basically the north end of the bypass, which runs from the end of Industrial Boulevard right at 101 Rockmart Road all the way back around to Dallas Highway, east of the intersection with Punkintown Road, is in progress. we'll be known as the City of Gold and roundabouts, because there are 2 roundabouts that are proposed at the end of either side of that. Those are being funded in advance by the city, and then that will be reimbursed by GDOT, Department of Transportation.
Yeah, they're going to actually they're part of the whole thing, right? Yeah.
So, but that's exciting for a lot of reasons, and you know, if you had asked me the question 6 months ago, what will be the number one question that you're asked on a daily basis, I would not have told you this, but now I can tell you that the number one question is, what are you going to do about this traffic? And coming from the Cobb County environment, you know, traffic was just a part of life. But here in Villa Rica, you know, that hasn't been that big a problem till about 10 years ago. And so now, you know, just about every day I see photos of people sitting at the traffic jam at the end of Industrial Boulevard, back all the way up to Goldust Park. And that's an unfortunate part of growth in any neighborhood or any community. And the bypass is going to help alleviate that. Because a lot of those people, quite frankly, don't live in Villa Rica. They commute through Villa Rica on their way to Haralson County or on their way to Paulding County. So this bypass is going to help that. But it's also going to open up a lot more possibilities as far as industrial, commercial growth. And it's a really exciting proposition. It's been happening a long time, and I hope it's finished in my lifetime.
Are they still doing reverse single parking in Villa Rica?
They are still doing reverse. We still are doing reverse parking on that one street in Villa Rica, and that's one of the things that I'm gonna go back to the beginning of that and go back to the commercial, all the businesses on that street, and just find out if it's been a success, if it's not been a success, and then we'll reevaluate that. I think it's important that those business owners have a voice in that process, and so that's what we're going to do. But you know, I heard something the other day, Colin, and you always have to look at 2 sides of every argument. And there's always been a problem with people exiting Wilson Street onto South Carroll right there, and it's a bad intersection. And as far as I know, there hasn't been one accident since that reverse parking was put in place, because no one can exit on South Carroll Road. Everybody's going the opposite direction. Mm-hmm. So you have to look at all the options when you look at something like that. That's something, you know, public safety obviously takes priority over, you know, convenience, and but it is something that we're going to look at.
And there's no other road in Villa Rica. I mean, I can't picture right now any other place where that would actually fit, where that would be even necessary. Reverse single parking? I mean, there's no discussions about any place else in town.
There's no discussions of putting any more reverse parking in.
Okay. And before we take our break here, you guys opened up your brand new library last month. I went out there and covered that, and I expected to see a good crowd, but it was huge. I mean, it was like the entire town was there, and people from other towns too. I mean, there were police directing traffic in front. I mean, people were parking across the street at the hospital because it was just so packed. Has that interest maintained? I mean, I don't believe, you know, the whole town's there every day, but I mean, we've still seen a lot of people.
It has. You know, the library staff is doing a really good job, and the library board, the volunteer board, is putting a lot of good programs together for the summertime, for reading programs, things to keep the kids involved in the reading during the summertime, and it's an exciting time to be a part of Villa Rica as far as that library is concerned. But we haven't even hit our strides yet. We want to partner. I mentioned meeting with Scott Coward earlier this week, and we want to partner with our schools and be able to use that facility not only for the public but also for the schools, the children, the students at Villa Rica High School, middle schools, and elementary schools. So it's a beautiful facility. If you've been to it, you've seen it. If you haven't been to the library, it's a unique learning experience. It's not the library that I grew up going and attending. It's very interactive, a lot of new technology, and it was designed well, and the staff, like I said, they're doing a tremendous job of programming it.
It was good to see. It was good to see that crowd, and for anybody to say that, you know, libraries aren't being taken advantage of anymore. I mean, they didn't see that crowd. I mean, it was really good to see. We'll take our second break right now. It is about 7 minutes before 9 o'clock on this cloudy Friday. We're talking with Villa Rica Mayor Jeff Reese on this morning's Community Voice program, and we'll be back after this message from our friends at Tanner Health System.
Need help finding something healthy to eat? Tanner Health System has an app for that. Minuit helps you find healthy food options on the go. The smartphone app is powered by Tanner's Health experts, who teamed up with restaurants across West Georgia to make it easier for you to choose healthy food and eat better. Minuit acts like your personal nutrition assistant, showing you the healthiest items on the menu. So when you're not sure what's good to eat, Minuit. You can even use the app to look up recipes and plan healthy meals at home. and modify your options based on nutritional preferences, such as a low sodium or vegetarian diet. Minuit and Tanner Health System, making it easier to eat healthy and live well. A healthier lifestyle is only a fingertip away. Minuit is free to download on your Apple or Android smartphone. You can download it today by searching Minuit in the App Store or on Google Play. Learn more about Minuit at gethealthylivewell.org.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice Program. Our show brought to you by Tanner Health System, 6 minutes before 9 o'clock. I'm your host, Colin Worthington. Our guest this morning is Villa Rica Mayor Jeff Reese. One of the stories we talked a lot about, even before you got into office last year, was this tax exemption for seniors in Villa Rica, I guess for maybe 10 years, more than a decade, actually. Mm-hmm. It turns out that every senior was getting the same tax exemption. I think it was initially meant for people lower income to benefit, right?
That's correct. And
it was actually being handled different in Douglas County than it was Carroll County. So you guys just kind of, rid that. And it was also actually the way it was set up was going against the Georgia Constitution, too. So so the city attorney said, all right, let's get rid of this and we'll try and figure something else out. And that was one of the reasons why they rushed you into your seats to be part of that discussion before you normally would take office in January, but they got you in there in November. You guys did put something together, and it turned out that it just wasn't going to be financially beneficial for the city to make that happen this year. So this year, seniors will be without that tax exemption, but you do plan to have it in place for next year.
That's correct. Yeah, we were trying to get it effective for the 2017 tax year, but the Legislative Council at Gold Dome said, well, you really can't make it retroactive to 2017. And I'm glad that we found out when we did, because we were about to have a special election in March that would have cost the taxpayers $15,000 to pay for these poll workers and just to open up the polls and advertise. So we found out in time, thank goodness, where we could kind of forget about that and put it in effect as of January 1st, 2018. I'm proud to say that thanks to our legislative delegation that it was passed and signed by the governor. And so the $8,000 senior tax exemption will be on the ballot in November for the voters to vote on, and that's the way it should be. I think the voters should decide whether that exemption is a part of government or not. And if it passes, then every senior that applies for that exemption would receive an $8,000 exemption on the 40% value of their house, and that gets a little bit complicated. But it's a good deal if that's what the voters want, and this is the way it should be. Government should be representative, and so we're glad that that'll be on the ballot in November.
And we'll certainly cover that more as we do approach that date. Are there any other issues on the ballot this year for you guys? Any other races, city council or anything?
Yes, there are. Let's see, Councilman Gil McDougall, Ward 4, he's up for re-election. That's a short term.
He's been in there for half a second at this point.
Yeah, he's just getting his feet wet. Now he's got to jump back in the water again. And but Councilman Williamson had vacated that seat and that left, so he was filling his expired term. So, and I believe there's one more council person.
Yeah, I think there's usually two.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, give people a reason to go back to the polls. I mean, if you look at, the elections they had just last week, it's just terrible turnout.
And I've been very, very forceful, I guess, in telling people, be a part of your government. I tell people that on Facebook when I get questions and when I get emails and phone calls. Do you come to the council meetings? Are you involved in your council? And that's the one problem that I see with the government from the local level all the way up to the federal level is people need to be involved. A democratic government was never supposed to be ran by people that dictated what was told to the people that were out there in the public. The public is supposed to run the government, and I think we've lost sight of that in this nation. And so I encourage everybody. We meet the first Tuesday of every month at 6 o'clock at the Hoyt Bishop Center next to above the police department in Villa Rica. And I encourage everyone to come out and get up and talk or ask questions in public comment or just attend a meeting and know what's going on with your local government. Don't wait until it happens and then say, wow, nobody ever told me about that. Because it is publicized, and if you can't get out of your house, turn your TV on. We stream live during those council meetings, and like I said, I have a Facebook page, or you can email me at jreese@villarica.org, and I will answer every question that I can.
Got about 2 minutes left in the program. There was something else that's been in the news recently. The Georgia Constitution allows the hotel motel tax to be up to 8%, I believe, and I think currently you guys were at 5%. And Carrollton did this too as well a couple months back, where they just kind of raised it to 8%. I was curious if if the hotel owners or anybody like that had complained about that, but the ones I talked to, they're like, well, heck, if it's going to benefit us, then I'm okay with that. Tell me how it does benefit them and benefit the city to raise that tax up a little bit. Again, it's on the hotel themselves. It's not necessarily going to the taxpayer.
Right. And a tax is a tax, and let me say that up front. Anytime you raise someone's bill, then that's a tax. Somebody's paying it. In this case, when you're talking about the hotel motel tax, that's a tax on the people who actually stay at the motels in Villa Rica, and that money comes back to the cities to use for tourism, to promote the city.
It has to be part of promotion.
Right. You can't just use it to supplement pay or doing things like that. There's very strict guidelines for what that money can be used for. Most cities have gone to 8% now. In the area, and like you said, Carrollton has pushed for that, and so we push to be a part of that also. And that's another item that is probably signed by now by the governor. I know it passed both houses, and so that raise, that 3% raise, would go into effect, I guess, in 2018 is before it would go in. But the monies that is derived from that will go right back into the city of Villa Rica. Like I said, to promote the city itself, to do some of the things that we're talking about. We could spend an entire show talking about the Renaissance Plan, which is a big deal in Villa Rica, and basically it is what it is. It's a renaissance of the city of Villa Rica, and it incorporates a lot of things that you see in what I call upwardly progressive small towns such as Blue Ridge into our community. So we're excited.
Jeff, 8:59 my clock says. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you coming out this morning. And thank you all for listening to this morning's Community Voice, brought to you by Tanner Health System on News Talk 1330.
Listen to News Talk 1330 WLBB on your smartphone.